Okay, hey guys, it's Mama Time. I'd asked you guys a while back to send me some questions so that I could have a chance to talk with you guys and let you know a little bit more about what's going on with the stories that I've been working on and some of my writing processes. So I appreciate those of you that did submit stuff. So let's get started. Um, our current question on my Tumblr and AO3 account is how do I handle writer's block, and how often am I struck by it? I tend to go through a list of things to get me through writer's block. Some work is better than others, but it depends on my mood and the reason for the writer's block. If it's just a bad day for my mental health, then nothing is going to motivate me again until until the storm cloud passes. But when it's just like regular everyday writer's block, I'll reread what I've written. I will go make a cup of coffee. I will try and work on something else. I'll take a walk. I'll clean and just kind of think about it while I'm working. Um, and sometimes I'll just go back and read through the comments on those particular stories because just a simple, I love this and can't wait for the next chapter can go a long way to, jumpstart my motivation. Um, Another one was how do you come up with some of your stories, and are there other stories or media that influence your writing? Um, it can go. I can go to the store and see like some little kid running by, and um, my brain will jump to, okay, why is the kid running? Are they running from somebody? Or are they trying to run to something? What is their motivation for running? And then how can I make it kind of weird? And then from there, it's just everything will changes until I have like a good little, scene going in my head of why somebody is running. And yeah, it could be scary, it could be silly, you don't know. It depends on where my head goes that day. Um, and sometimes though, just for like influence wise, it could be a movie, it could be somebody else's writing or artwork. Like I've seen original work and my mind goes, hey, that would make for an interesting plot. Let me flesh out a plot for it. Um, Nobody Stormcrow from A Real Family asks, did you write the story with a complete plan in mind, or did you only have a rough outline? Where do you get inspiration for your characters? What about fairy tales, myths, legends, classics, fan fiction, real life, or dreams? It started out as a prompt I posted on my Tumblr and was inspired by the post about an old lady who accidentally summoned a demon who decided to pose as her grandson because, hey, the grandson doesn't want anything to do with his grandma, so the demon will happily take the free cake and sweaters. Um, it kind of led me down the path of, there aren't enough fantasy supernatural stories where an older person is the protagonist without the older person, being killed immediately, or they're the mysterious, omnipotent being that guides the protagonist through their journey or whatever. Um, so I wanted there to be more literature where the protagonist was an older character, but it wasn't centered around them dying, or them helping somebody else save the day or whatever. Um, I wanted this to be just about them. Um, but for Frank specifically, he's inspired by my Opa, who was an air traffic controller for a very long time, both in and out of the military. And he was in the Vietnam War. And also, like Frank, he did break his back during combat. Um, so when he and Maureen are arguing about yoga, that's that's where the broken back portion comes from. The only difference is at the moment, um, my Oma is still very much alive, and Frank's wife is not. So there's that. Um, but where concerns like fairy tales and whatnot, at least for this story, I'm taking the usual myths, supernatural beings, and whatnot, and giving them a bit more of a modern twist. That's why Maureen teaches yoga and why Lenry owns a bar, rather than doing what we would expect of a gnome or vampire. I wanted to bring a few of the less mainstream beings in to the light as well. But I'm trying to be very careful not to cross the line when discussing foreign folklore. The last thing I want to do is offend somebody because I over bastardized their culture or religion. Um, so it's small steps for that portion. Dark Phoenix Rising about Days and Nights. Hey, I just wanted to say I love the story and I'm happy to ask questions. So, what gave you the idea of adding supernatural elements to Hamilton? I had this plot for a while, but as an original work, it wasn't originally intended to be fan fiction, obviously. Um, but I just decided to write it out using somebody else's characters and then go back to convert it into an original work. It's kind of like what I'm doing with Christmas with the Jeffersons at the moment. Um, the slow conversion to original work because Christmas with the Jeffersons is already taking a while, but something as meaty as Days and Nights is going to take a crap ton longer. And that part I'm not looking forward to, but that's just because of how much world building has gone into the plot itself. When Christmas with the Jeffersons was very simple, you know, here's a prompt calendar for Christmas. Now just base all of your chapters off of those. That was very easy. Days and Nights is not that simple. So um, Hamilton just happened to be the fandom I used for that plot that I already had going. Streaming Heart 133 from A Real Family. Do you see yourself in your characters? How do you feel about killing a character off? And what aspects of your writing do you think needs work? It depends on the character. If I write one who has similar traits or whatever, then obviously I can um, relate, but I try to avoid that and treat them each as their own person. Um, and I try not to kill characters off just to kill them off. However, on occasion I will do it just because I know you guys really enjoy the angst of it. Or if you guys have like given me a specific prompt saying, "Hey, make it hurt," then I will. um, as for what aspect of my writing needs more work, I used to be a lot better with narrative than I was with dialogue, but at some point that switched, and now I am a lot better with dialogue than I am with narrative, which is not good. You cannot have a scene without knowing what that scene looks like, what everybody's doing, how they're saying things. Like if you just have straight up dialogue, like that gets really boring because it's like, okay, who's talking? Why are they talking? What's going on? So you can't have a scene without narrative, and I need to really do a lot better about fixing that portion of that part of my writing. Nino from Stay a While. How many times do you usually rewrite everything you do? And what do you like about writing? Um, Depends on how feeling about my writing at the time, and if I like how it's turning it, the story is turning out so far. I have rewritten things a couple of times, and it kills me to do it. But I'll usually save a copy of what I've written down first, in case I'd rather stick with the original idea for a chapter after I've done the rewrite. Because sometimes it's like you'll rewrite something and it's like, actually, this is worse than what I had before. Let me go back and just use what I had before. Um, but I like the freedom of writing just because my head is very noisy. And so trying to focus on one or two things is very difficult unless I've like kind of had word vomit to get all the chaos out of my head to let me think straight. Order 66 from Stay a While. Do you make an outline when you write, or do you just wing it with a vague idea of where you're going? What do you do when you cannot find the word you're looking for? I'm bad about not making outlines. I will at least jot down the main events and then go from there. Christmas with the Jeffersons had the 25 Days of Christmas prompt calendar that I made, but that's about the most I've ever done for pleasure writing outside of world building. World building is like my thing. I love it. It is probably the most enjoyable aspect of writing for me. But outlining the actual story itself, I'm not very good at that. If I can't find the word or phrase I'm looking for, I will leave a very large underscore on the page and come back to it and fill it in at 3 a.m. because, of course, that's when my brain is going to wake me up and say, hey, remember what you were struggling to find? Guess what I found? Um, but other times I'll just rewrite the sentence so that I don't have to worry about it. Um, it just depends on whether or not rewriting the sentence will maintain the flow I wanted it to or not. Um, Lenny 9890 from A Real Family. When are you going to post another chapter? I'm in school right now, so it could be about another week or two. What inspired you to write this particular story, and do you often find yourself pulled towards the mythical and supernatural genre? Um, Again, I'm in school right now, so it's going to be a little bit more slow going. But I made the prompt a few months ago, but nobody did anything. And then I was like, okay, well, since nobody else is going to use this prompt to write something, I guess I'll go ahead and do it. Um, may as well do it the way I want. So I started working on it when I had a moment this semester, and then um, it's just a piece at a time, honestly. But I am having a lot more fun with the research aspect of it than I am with just writing the story itself because I am a huge nerd. Thanks, Mom. But researching the various folklore that I plan to use for this story, that's why I like mythical supernatural genre is because there's so much research involved on cultures, and I really enjoy that part. Um, and what was the rest of the question again? Often, okay. Am I often pulled to that genre? Actually, no. In original writing, I tend to gravitate more towards sci-fi. I don't really read or watch much sci-fi, but I love writing it. And then fantasy would be like a close second. High fantasy would be a close second. Um, and it's all just because of the research and science aspect of it. There's a lot of freedom because of it. At least for me, there is. Like renaming types of engines that would be used to get you from one side of the universe to the other. Like that's fun for me. Let's see. K Crazy Comics from Stay a While. What inspires you to write? Can be movies, games, other writers, so on. Again, I can see someone while I'm out and about and think, okay, how can I use that later for something? And that's the last of them. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. If you have any more questions, you can always submit them in the comment section on AO3, or you can just shoot me an ask on Tumblr. Um, I'm usually pretty quick to respond to things. You'll either hear from me within an hour or in a day, so you won't have to worry about waiting too long. But thanks again, guys, and I really appreciate it.